Welcome, our fellow lovers of love, and thank you for joining us on yet another excursion through the stream of consciousness, down the river of tranquility, to fill the lake of life with love.
Good evening, our fellow lovers of love, and thank you for joining me and Lubby here on another night. Lubby's put together another show for us today, and she's going to have to pretty much lead the show tonight because I have been so busy that I barely even got to look at the topics. So, which is why you've got the title of this thing is For the Love of Identities. I had my which is essentially a copy of last week's For the Love of Teenagers, because that's where my creativity is these days. It's been so busy. Me and Levy had a trip down to a what should we call it, a business meeting, a political business meeting, shall we say, which took half of our day. You know, those things are always so much fun. Hey, all right, I hear our cat calling. So before I'm gonna go and let our cat in, just for the fun of it, and so Lubby's gonna kick us off. We've got, what do you want to start with, Lubby?
Well, we have on the docket to start the top 10 gender identities. Now there are actually 81 types of genders and gender identities, and we are not going to go through those, hi, Kitty, but we are going to review the top 10. I posted the article with 81 genders, A to Z, if anyone is interested to take a gander. Okay.
And before we do that, you can go to Love at Late Night Love. Let me get the right screens up. There you go. Late Night Love.us to find these links and say hello to the cat. Stop drinking my drink. So, this is one of these things I want to be careful with, because in today's world, we seem to want two things to be true. We want to be able to freely be ourselves while telling other people to not be freely them. And it kind of works from both directions. And so, whatever your feelings are on gender identities and how many there are and all of that, what we should remember is that regardless of your feelings on that, we're all human beings, first and foremost. And that's what we should remember about each other. That, regardless of your feelings on how many genders there may or may not be, and the causes of this explosion in gender identities, at the end of the day, we're all people trying to get through our lives as best we can. And, I think we should just remember that no matter where you stand, if you want the freedom to freely express yourselves and freely be who you are, that means you have to give other people that same freedom, even if you don't like it. So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Live freely as yourself. More power to you. I love you. Just remember to allow others to do the same, even when it's hard. Not especially when it's hard. Okay, so where are you at? Let's go.
Okay, top 10. We're going to do a countdown. This is beyond male and female. Number 10, gender fluid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they do not see themselves as male or female. A gender fluid individual may identify as one or other sex at any given time through their interests or clothing. Okay, number 9. Okay, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. Bigender, Bigender. In contrast to gender fluid, a bigender person identifies as either male or female at any given time. They have two sexual identities and will feel and behave like one gender or the other depending on the circumstances at the time. And then the gender the shift between genders could last from hours to years. People born with male genitalia and female genitalia both identify as begender. Okay, and number 8, gender non-conforming. A gender non-conforming person does not conform to the typical gender-based stereotypes in society. For example, women like pink, sparkly things, and men like sports and have big muscles. Either by choice or by nature, people who identify as gender non-conforming don't go along with cultural expectations of gender roles.
See, I think ones like that are overblown. There's lots of men who define themselves as men who don't use gender roles. Easy, kitty. I'll kick you back out.
Okay, and we have number 7, third gender. There's a third gender that is neither man nor woman. This applies to trans women of India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan, are known as hijaras. So some of these are specific to parts of the world. I've never heard of this one. Number 6, Two-Spirit. This is Native American, also considered to be under the third gender umbrella term. And number 5, Genderqueer. All of the previous identities come under the umbrella term genderqueer. Okay, I'm getting confused. This refers to identities that are outside of the gender binary, so those who do not exclusively identify with neither male or female. Another term for this is non-binary. Okay, I got it. Number 4, cisgender. Okay, it concerns to very common gender identities that our individual feels they are their biological sex. So if you're born a woman and you feel you're a woman, you're cisgendered.
I thought you'd just be a woman. See, now you're giving labels to people who don't ask for labels. This is kind of where the problem goes. Once you head down this road, you're now putting labels on people who didn't ask for a different label.
Yeah.
So where are you going with that? It's all right, kitty. So it's one of these reasons why people find this topic. Hold on.
A little confusing. Okay, we have agender, an individual who doesn't have gender is identified as agender.
And so this is why people get confused and start rebelling against it, though, is where these things, where you're starting to add labels to people who don't want them, right? You want to add labels to yourself, great, knock yourselves out. But when you start imposing that worldview on other people, it's no better when those other people are imposing their worldview on you. You know better. You become what you hate at that rate, at that stage. And it's time to start rethinking the approach. Not necessarily the respect of people's view, but rethink the approach you're taking to find that respect. Because you have to give it to get it.
Yes, you do. Okay, number 2, transgenders. Okay, they have gender identities that don't match the one assigned to their physical sex. And number 1, intersex. According to the UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, intersex individuals do not fit the typical definitions for male or female bodies. They're born with variations of chromosomes, hormones, or genitalia that aren't consistent with typical gender characteristics. the previous term hermaphrodite is no longer considered appropriate.
It means the same thing, but you can't say. See, these are the things that drive people crazy. It means the same thing. You're just changing the word, trying to change a perceived stereotype, whether it exists or not. But the stereotype will just be transferred to the new word. It doesn't work. You've got thousands of years of history that show this. And so you're better off spending your time, reframing how people view the word. But that's... I could spend hours and no one wants to listen to that. So, well, there are a few people who want to listen to that, just not on this channel. This is not, it's not what they're here for. But I think, the overriding goal, the overriding kind of view on these things is that, the world is a complicated place and we're all just trying to get through it the best we can. And so, you try to learn about other people's experiences, and that's kind of one of the benefits of the modern world is we get to learn about other people's experiences, other people's worldview. The side benefit of that is, well, the side benefit, another consequence of that is you have to learn about other people's perspective and worldviews. And you're not going to like all of them. And you're going to have to make a decision about what, how much of their lives impacts your life and what to do about it. When the truth is, it's most often nothing. It's none of your business. How other people choose to view the world, how other people choose to live their lives is none of your business, As long as they're living theirs and you're living yours. I think that's the way to do it. Live your life in love, and all of this goes away. All these kerfuffles over this kind of thing goes away. Because it doesn't matter. Ultimately. What matters is how you treat other people.
Well, I remember the golden rule. Treat other people how you want to be treated. It's very simple.
But very hard to do.
Yes, it is.
That's why it's called the golden rule and not the, nickel rule or the earthen rule or the wooden rule or the it's called the golden rule because it's valuable. Yeah. Gold has been valuable throughout the course of time. So when they tell you a golden rule, it means it's worth something you should pay attention to, something you should value. And it's true, something you should value. Do you want love and respect? And I think we all want love and respect. Well, you've got to give it. Because, you reap what you sow. You can't plant cucumbers and expect rice to grow, right? It's not what's going to happen. It's not how it works, right? If you plant cucumbers, you're not going to get strawberries. No? Right? You're
Yes.
the one who grew on the farm, not me. I don't know. Maybe can you plant cucumbers and get strawberries? I don't know.
No.
Yeah, so I didn't think so. I didn't think that's how it worked. You got to plant strawberries to get strawberries.
Strawberries are picky.
Yes, they are. They're a pain in the butt. We used to have a strawberry bed when I was a kid. Not that I knew anything about it. I just know we had one. I don't know. If you let me near those strawberry bed, it would have been dead. That's what would have happened to it. Me and plants. I'd kill weed. So, all right. So what do we got next?
9 most unusual sexual deviations.
Oh, that's a little more interesting than identities now, isn't it?
Well, now these are medical conditions and mental health issues.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Okay, number 1, persistent genital excitation disorder. And people with this disorder are in a constant state of sexual arousal.
That would be really annoying. I'm just saying.
That would be hard.
Yeah. Pun not intended.
No. Pun not intended. Okay, we have Priapism. 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 It's characterized by the constant excitation of the penis.
Well, there's your joke. Okay, so isn't that kind of the same thing?
Well, apparently the first one can affect both sexes.
Okay. All right.
Hypersexuality is excessive hyperactivity of sexual desire is classified as a mental disorder. These people are prone to high-risk sexual behavior.
Yeah, anything that negatively impacts your life, right, gets to a point where it's some kind of a disorder. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Sexomnia or sex in a dream.
That's a problem. It's interesting that they view that as a problem of some sort.
It happens. They do it in a dream, and then they don't remember it.
Well, then how do they know to report it?
I don't know.
I don't understand that one. Okay.
All right, asexuality.
Okay.
Okay, they have no sexual desires.
Okay.
It's called asexuality. It lasts not a week, not a month, but always.
Yeah, that one's relatively well known.
Yeah. Paraphilia. It's obsessive behavior which manifests itself in socially unacceptable ways of satisfying sexual desire. In other words, they're excited by something unusual and strange.
Well, welcome to humanity. That just explains humans. I'm just saying, sex is strange. We've discussed this before. We should probably do it again at some point. Sex is just strange in its nature if you think about it too much.
Hermaphrodism. We talked about that.
Yeah, apparently that's the wrong word now. So,
okay.
I don't know.
Micropenis reaches less than 12 centimeters in an erect state. That's just unfortunate. And the last one is deviation. This definition of duplication of the penis in medicine, this phenomenon is quite rare, and in history there is about 100 known cases of diphtheria in men with this deviation. Both penis can function normally, but usually these people are infertile. Often the treatment is radical, the removal of one less developed organ.
No, if you think having two heads is bad, just come out trying to have three. God, that's supposed to be, but less than 100 documented cases, which probably means there's a few, like 2 or 3 of that many. So it's not something that happens very often. Sure isn't one of those common.
No.
Thank God, I suppose.
It's unusual. 2 penises.
Yeah. And they're infertile, so it's not like they can pass on whatever mutation it has that caused that. So it's weird. No, mutations from the genetics and evolutionary point of view, it's how evolution happens, right? You get a mutation. If it's successful, it carries on. If it's not, it dies out. Well, that particular mutation is doomed to die every time it tries itself.
Yes.
So.
But it keeps trying.
It keeps trying. So, I think what do we take away from all this is that we should be kind, because we never know what other people in lives are actually going through. What you see on the surface isn't necessarily what's bubbling underneath.
No, indeed.
And, a lot of people put masks on to get through the world. Not literal masks, but, they pretend. And it's not a good way to live. Pretending who you are, not being your true self. It teaches you to lie. It teaches you that lying and manipulating people are okay. Accidentally. I'm not saying you're deliberately doing that, but long term, that's what it teaches you. That you're okay with lying and manipulating. And, sometimes it's for your safety and it's understandable, but you need to be careful because you do that for long enough and you become that lie. Yeah. And so the way to make people feel better, not having to live those lies, is to be welcoming to everybody, regardless of their perspectives. And, when you have those discussions in public, don't make it personal, make it, generic. You're not talking about the person in front of you or any individual. You're talking about a generic societal issue. Dehumanize it, depersonalize it, but humanize it. And, we'll all start to get to a better place. All right, so you got 7 common sexual fantasies, what they mean, how to try, and more.
Apparently, number 1 is multiple partner sex.
That makes sense. I don't know why that was surprising. It's just like regular sex, but you add somebody else or another person.
Well, apparently the idea of multiple people wanting to have sex with you is very common. You're the star of the show.
Yeah.
In that fantasy. Unfortunately, fantasies and reality are not, the twain shall not always meet.
Yeah, certain times of our lives, those kind of things are more, apt to have less consequences than others. So we say, that's why that kind of stuff happens to the old and the young, right? Not the middle, not those in the middle. Happened to the retired folks. That's who kind of, if the place. What is it? There's some retirement community in Florida that has the highest rate of STDs in the country. It's just a bunch of old people going out and having a grand old time.
Oh my.
Yeah. I'm just saying. So, the old and the young are the ones who, because the young, they haven't built a life yet, so there's no consequences, right? There's less, we might have some emotional consequences, but there's no, you don't have a life partner yet, and so you're kind of free to play. You don't have children to watch after, you don't have the whole life to fall apart yet. And then once you're retired, what do you care? You're on the backside of life. It's party time, right? So, you only got 20 years left. You might as well enjoy them, right, kind of thing.
Well, in this article, they suggest if you have a partner, you can introduce this to your partner as a way of enacting out a fantasy.
Yeah. It's just not surprising to me. That's all I was saying. That one's not all. Okay, what's next?
Power, control, rough sex.
Yeah, those make sense. People like to feel like they've lost control or they have some unseated issue from childhood that they deal with through that, right?
Yep.
I think that's kind of the common.
Now you can just be mild and do a blindfold.
Yeah, well,
that's fairly common.
Yeah, well, so what to do about it? Seek a therapist? Is that what they say? I don't know.
No.
Well, it depends how far it goes, but if some of this stuff goes over the rails, you may want to talk to someone about
it. What you do is first they suggest some tips. Agree on just a tip. Agree on a safe word. Talk through what the roles are. Establish boundaries. Take it slowly and check in continuously.
Oh man, here you are trying to give information tonight, and I'm sitting here just giving backhanded snide comments.
I know.
I'm just in a mood today, apparently. Okay, so.
Okay. Another big one is novelty, adventure, and variety, such as sex on a beach, mountaintop, in an airplane bathroom. Um, they suggest while wearing a butt plug, getting it on in the park,
Essentially, whatever floats your boat.
just really
Of course, now be careful with some of these places,
explore and play.
because getting it on in a park can get you arrested. So
Yes, there is a caveat in here. In the United States, having sex in public is illegal.
yeah. So I'm just saying, manage your manage yourself.
And apparently, big on the fantasy is taboo and forbidden sex.
Well, yeah, it's called fantasy.
Tickling feet or armpits, worshiping leather or lycra, voyeurism.
Yeah, anything that's gonna make people think that you're weird is kind of right. You try to hide it. Sadly it's a human thing. I don't even know what to say about that one, to be honest. It was too generic of a statement that there was nothing in specific. Anyway, okay.
Okay. And of course, just your regular old-fashioned romance and passion.
It never existed. It only exists in women's movies.
Long walks on the beach, candlelit dinners, eye contact during lovemaking.
Like we said, it only happens in the romance movies. But that's why it's called a fantasy. Right? That's why we call these things a fantasy.
If you're in a relationship, you and a partner need to spend more time together. If you're single, you might want to explore doing a massage chain with a friend.
A massage chain.
Making love to yourself in the candlelight.
No one can love you better than you.
Do all out bubble bath, massage oil.
That's just too much work. That's just too much trouble. But then again,
that's a night of
this is clearly written for a woman.
Self-love.
Okay.
Erotic flexibility, gender bending fantasies, sexual fluidity.
Yeah, get to be not yourself, right? That's the point of that one. Just being something other than who you are for a little while, getting essentially checking out of yourself. You're just somebody else for a few hours, a weekend, whatever it is. I think is a lot of what these really are about. You get to check out of yourself and you get to be something else. It's like, role-playing game. It's like Dungeons and Dragons for sex, right? It's kind of
Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, they did have a caveat in here. If you're frequently having sexual fantasies about things that aren't legal and want to explore these for real, consider meeting with a sex therapist to unpack these urges.
Yeah.
Before your life takes a dramatic turn.
Yes, that's the thing. Some of these things are, if you feel like it's going off the rails in some form, make sure you deal with it properly. You don't want to become something you don't like, right? You're chasing something, there's something wrong, go seek help for it. Okay. Now, granted, some laws are stupid, but it is what it is.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have to use your own judgment, but be mindful of others during your experience, during your, think about the other person, not just you, other people involved.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Lumby, we're on to questions tonight.
Yes, we are.
What do we have?
Well, we're going to start with some relationship questions.
Uh-oh.
Here we go. I have been with my husband for 32 years and we have 4 children together. 14, 16, 18, and 22. Over the years, we struggle with money. Husband is a self-employed builder, and I have got some biggish debts which are under control as I have a payment plan in place. He also has some debts. I have also worked some of the years part-time, but I've been full-time for the last 3 years and do overtime regularly. Anyway, my mother-in-law died a year ago and left my husband just over £200,000, which was totally unexpected. He said he wanted to pay off the mortgage, £45,000, and gave all the kids £2,500 each. I really hoped he would offer to pay some of my debts, not all, but I feel really awkward about talking about it with him. He did pay the rest of the money I owed my dad for my car, £3,500, so he's given me something. Any thoughts?
Well, my thoughts is you've been married this long, but yet you're still living your lives separately. His money, your money, right? Instead of our money. It's not our debts. It's his debt. It's my debt. It's not our debt. You're not working as a team, as a unit. That would be my biggest concern. My biggest concern isn't the money. Money's just money. It comes and goes. It's that you're not as a family working together and making a decision about, okay, which debts do we pay off? Which debts do we keep extending? Let's pay off the high interest debts and leave the ones that are low interest. Are you making sound financial decisions, or are you making emotional decisions based upon your individual emotions? That would be my biggest concern, is that you're not working together. There wasn't we statements in there. It was all I's. Them, me. And that's not how good families work. I mean, you can have separate money and you can have separate accounts, but if you view it like left pocket, right pocket, I take care of this pocket, you take care of that pocket, but at the end of the day, if one pocket needs money, we'll shift it over. It's not a problem. We make these decisions together. We just each have our own part of it we're responsible for. And that's what concerns me. Stop worrying about the money. Worry about the relationship. There's something wrong. When you go through all that and that many I statements, there's something wrong. There's something deeper wrong. I don't care about the money. I care there's a relationship in trouble and they don't realize it. It's in there. That's what concerns me.
I, 28 female, have been in a relationship with my partner, 30-year-old male, about 7 years now. Of course, when we first started seeing each other, we were going at it like rabbits. He couldn't stop touching me, wanting to be with me. He just seemed to be extremely attracted to me. We moved in together last year, and everything to me has started to change. He doesn't touch me, doesn't compliment me, and doesn't seem to desire me. It's left me feeling like garbage. Yes, I have picked up some weight, but I don't think I've changed all that much. So now we have sex once every 2 weeks, and it feels like it's obligatory for him because he seems so far gone for the situation. Or I'm the one who is desperately trying to initiate any sort of intimacy. I've tried talking to him about it, and he just says, I'm tired, I don't feel good, not now. I feel like I'm convincing him to want to be intimate with me, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, doesn't feel great. Other than that, we still hang out, have conversations. More or less, the best friend aspect is still there, if that makes sense. I know we are getting older. I know we have busy lives, but it feels off. Can you help me understand if I'm going crazy, or is my boyfriend just not into me anymore?
Well, people go through periods. Maybe he is tired. Maybe he is stressed. Is something going on at work? There's very stressful, because men, once they hit their late 20s, early 30s, how old were they? Did it say?
She's 27. She's 28. He's 30.
Yeah, you're right at that age where the stress, especially in men, will really kick that testosterone production down. And with low testosterone, the men's sexual desire will fall off the edge of a cliff. And it just does. It may have nothing to do with you. It could be stress in other areas of life. And, helping him deal with those stresses. And I understand. I think we all understand the emotion of feeling alone, which is really what she's describing. She feels alone. She feels disconnected. For some reason, she had conflated sexual attraction, sexual attention with love. And so for her, that was a symbol of love. And at the moment, he's not able to give that for some reason. Whatever reason it is, whatever reason that may be, he's not able to give that. And she can't find that connection in other places of the relationship that she's, at least in writing, says is strong. Maybe it's not as strong as she thinks. There's a possibility. It may be the waning days of a relationship. It just happens. And sometimes that's the way nature goes. But, first, before I'd go anywhere else, I'd actually kind of see if something's going on in his life. Is he working a lot? Is he stressed? Maybe he's not feeling well. He says he doesn't feel well. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe the thing is, well, go to the doctor. And at 30 years old, I don't like going to the doctor. Just generally not feeling well. There might be something wrong. There might be something physically wrong. But you can't know if you can't look. And so look for other signs. Is he actually tired? Does he come home from work and go and take a nap? Is it unusual? Has something unusual changed? There may be some physical problem to be dealt with. Yeah. So, but this is one of those things. It's hard because relationships evolve and change, and you're right at that age. He's right at the age where, the sexual desire can fall off a cliff, depending upon life circumstances, and so it's hard to know exactly what's going on. But you're right. You deserve, to have answers, and it's hard to get them when the other person's feeling pressured, as many women know. Being on the other foot of that oftentimes, right? That's kind of the classic story, except in reverse. Men are feeling disconnected, and their wives are no longer want to have an intimate relationship. They're tired and exhausted, and it feels like a chore for them. So you do it every now and again as an obligation. But it can happen both ways. We just don't talk about it when it happens the other way. And I applaud her for being willing to talk about it, because it's hard. Okay.
So I, 23-year-old female, recently got married to my husband, 29-year-old male, and we're currently living with his family while our house is getting ready to move in. I didn't feel so good yesterday, so I spent the day in bed and came downstairs in the evening. My husband was sat on the sofa, my mother-in-law on the other, so I sat in the empty sofa to avoid spreading any virus. Shortly after that, my husband came and sat next to me and asked if I'd rub his back. I told him I wasn't feeling great and would appreciate if he would give me a rub. Then he said he would do when we got in bed later and moved back to the other sofa. His mom went and sat down next to him and gave him the back rub he wanted, rubbed his head and neck while looking at me. Dude, I felt very uncomfortable. Then my husband started rubbing his mom's back and shoulders. I was completely astounded that he refused to touch his wife but did it for his mother. We later had a conversation where I expressed how it upset me and felt embarrassed that he very clearly showed his mom she gets what I don't. He said I was overreacting. I didn't feel comfortable, and he didn't feel comfortable rubbing me in front of her, and can rub his mother because we're living in her house. He says I'll get this treatment in our home, but he doesn't think it's appropriate in his family home. Am I overreacting?
Yes and no, or no and yes. depending upon your perspective. No, you're not really overreacting, but at the same time, this is a perfectly kind of awkward thing that happens when you end up living with in-laws. And so in a sense, are you overreacting? No, you're perfectly right to have that reaction. But is the explanation reasonable? Yes, it is. Both of these things can be true, right? You're in an awkward situation right now. And when you live in an awkward situation, living with new in-laws, and these things happen. And it's one of those things that become like a war story in 10 years, right? So you just, let it water under the bridge. And when you step into your new house, you start your new life, and you kind of try to leave those things behind. And because it's just these kind of awkward things happen in this situation. They just do.
They do, unfortunately.
And there's nothing you can do about it. There's, he's trying to navigate a relationship between his mother and his new wife. It's not an easy task. Emotionally, it's not an emotionally easy task for a man. And he'll get there. It's just not a process. It's not a light switch. This is the bane of many new wives' existence, right? Getting the man to transfer his loyalty from his mother to his wife. It takes time. It just does. You've been raised by your mother for your whole life, and now all of a sudden you've got a new person to have that loyalty transferred to. It's hard. I don't think we appreciate the difficulty because as men, we don't talk about these things. But it's hard. And part of the reason we don't talk about it is because there's nothing to really talk about other than it's hard and it takes time. You just have to work at it. So hang on until your house is open and then start from scratch. That's it. Don't keep ditch the scoreboard. I can feel it starting to want to put check marks on the scoreboard. Mom 1, me 0, me 1. To ditch the scoreboard when you leave home. I get it to survive the thing to get through, right? I get it as a survival tactic. Leave it at the old house. That's all I'm saying. I understand the survival tactic. I'm not going to complain about it. Just leave it at the old house. When you move into your new house, wipe this scoreboard clean and don't bring it with you because scoreboards suck in long-term marriages and relationships. They just do. As long as you're both improving, you both feel loved and supported, that's what matters. Not who has more marks on their scoreboard this month. Because your time frame is no longer a month. Your time frame is your life. And how do you keep score of your life? Any given month, any given year, one person will have a higher score than the other. It's just the way it goes. If you start keeping score.
Can you imagine if we kept score?
I don't even imagine how we could manage to keep score. What would be the once you get a touchdown, what is that? What's the I want to know. What's the count? Where's the rule book?
What matters? What qualifies?
What qualifies? How much is it worth? I need to strategize. See, that's the kind of thing that you don't want to do that. You don't want to go through life, your freaking marriage strategizing. Come on. Wait, but if I do this, I'm going to get 2 points, which means I can go golfing next week, and she'll only be mad at me for 3 points, which puts me in a -1, which means I can bring her flowers on the way home, and I'm 0. Yeah! That's terrible. It's no way to live. All right, what's next?
Okay, we're going through a rough patch. We've been arguing over the fact that he's choosing to play Fortnite every night instead of being a partner to me and father to our children. We've gotten nowhere with compromise and arguing about it. Well, last night I'd had enough. I snapped him out and asked him what he wants from me because at the minute I feel like I'm just here to give him a roof. I do all childcare and housework. He works 8 to 4:30 p.m., comes home, and does sweet FA. What does that mean? I'm sick of it. His response was that he doesn't care if our relationship finishes or continues. He's just going with the flow. What do I do now?
Well, he's already told you what he feels about his view of the relationship is over. He's already ended it. He just doesn't have the courage to actually end it. For whatever reason, it's, which we don't know about. Relationships are messy behind closed doors and all that. But he's literally told you he's checked out. Is it kind of cowardice if you're going to check out like that? You should do it for real. Yeah, you should. Because now he's putting all of the responsibility for, properly ending the relationship on you. But at least now you know. Take him at his word. He told you. Plain as day. He didn't care. He didn't care anymore. Now, why he doesn't care, and maybe, if you still love him and you still want it, you might want to figure out why. Maybe not. That's for you to decide. What's gone wrong? Is he suffering from depression? Maybe he's in a depressive episode and he just doesn't care about anything at the moment. It's entirely possible. But we're too far to make that choice. You're going to have to make that decision. So I would advise you to find someone to talk to, whether a counselor or a trusted friend, rabbi, whatever it is, and start planning for your future, because it's one way or the other. I mean, it doesn't appear that, unless there's an explanation like the depression or something that you can work through, he's checked out of the relationship, and so it's your time to do it yourself. Chasing something that's not there is a waste of time, energy, and the love you want and need. It'll be financially difficult, but you have to make that choice. Now, there's a caveat about depression. It may be going through a depression. He may not simply care about anything in the world, and he may need help. And I don't want to throw that away. So, maybe consider that if you want to think about it with love. But for me, he told you he doesn't care. And when people tell you they don't care, you have a tendency to believe them. Huh?
Yeah. I didn't when I was younger, to my detriment.
Yeah. So, but if there's unresolved issues, or there may be some issue that needs to be resolved that he's not dealing with, right? And so,
right.
But you have to decide your own role in that. You've got your own problems to deal with. Is that something you're ready to take on for someone who doesn't care? And, sometimes you have to hit rock bottom, and, losing your wife and family may make him hit rock bottom, and he starts to rebuild his life. It may be sadly, sometimes it may be what he needs. Maybe what you need to be able to get on with yours. We don't know. These are those decisions in life that are difficult, and find somebody to talk to, help you through it, work through it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We have some parenting questions.
All right.
So I recently noticed that my son's quote-unquote friends are coming to my house, and their parents will leave and lock their doors and tell their kids they'll be back in a few hours. The last time this happened, I told his friend that his dad can't just leave him at my house without speaking to me first, because it happens a lot. Now he isn't friends with my son anymore. It seems like all the friends he has are always at my house for a reason other than being friends with my son. Toys, video games, food. When I tell them to play outside, they leave my son behind. I feel angry about this situation because there is nothing I can do. Am I wrong for not wanting to watch these kids?
Well, no, you're not wrong. But the question is, maybe your issue is you haven't taught your son how to properly interact. So all he knows how to do is offer things to get attention. Maybe you need to send your son to some social skills training classes, which I didn't know. Oddly enough, I didn't know they gave. But down at the other side of the building where I work now, the other side, they have give kids, 10, 11-year-old kids, social skills classes. Teach those kids who have difficulty making friends how to make friends properly. The socially awkward kids. So there's actually resources out there for kids who are socially awkward and who don't. There is stuff you can do. If your son is being taken advantage of, it's because he wants it to be. He's asking them to come over. And now other parents and whatnot are wrongly taking advantage of that. This is true. I'm not going to deny that one. But you do have a role in that. You're still part of the equation. You and your son are still part of the equation, and you have to figure out what part of that equation your son is playing and help him change that. It'll be good for his future. Otherwise, you're going to let him be manipulated for the rest of his life. So teach him social skills. That would be my suggestion.
Okay. My daughter is a very happy, very bright 7-year-old second grader with a head full of dreams. Unfortunately, that means most of the time she is constantly losing things. Last year, it was bad enough when she was losing a pair of gloves and a hat per week, if not more frequently. Where we live, most of the year, you can't be outside for a few moments without those items. You'll suffer frostbite or worse. They've only been back to school for 3 weeks. She's already lost a pair of indoor shoes, a jacket, her agenda, a bunch of her supplies. This morning, I get an email from her teacher that she was in line for class without a jacket but wearing gloves. I didn't give her gloves and a jacket when I did give her gloves and a jacket when I dropped her off. I'm perplexed. I'm waiting for the day when I get a call from Child Services that I'm reported for never sending to school with gloves or a jacket. How do I get her to be more mindful?
Well, first you have to talk to her and find out what's actually happening, because she may be trading her jacket and things for stuff, and she's not necessarily losing them. And two, if she's losing them at school, go to the lost and found and get them back, because that's where they'll end up. But she's 7. I don't understand why we expect 7-year-old to be able to keep track of stuff when I can't. I'm 52 and I can't keep track of my car keys, right? They're 7. You have to expect some of this. And, how do you get her to be more mindful? One, you just practice. It's really all it is. And it's practice all the time. Have her practice being more mindful about where she places things all the time. At home, make sure she has places for things.
A place for everything and everything in its place.
Yeah. Otherwise, if you really want to deal with that, that's how you have to deal with it. Otherwise, she's going to be kind of the absent-minded professor type person for her whole life. And there's nothing wrong with that, actually. It's just frustrating for you. And so if you want to end that frustration, deal with that you have to set it up so she is normalized to always knowing where everything is. And she's 7, you can start now. She's pliable. Now, which path you want to take? You want to let her be the scatter-minded person, artist type person? That's great. If you want to teach her to be more structured, that's fine. There's no right or wrong answer. I'm not saying one of the answers are right or wrong, but if you're going to do it, you can't just do it at school. It has to be everywhere. Otherwise, she's too young to understand the differences. So that would be my thing. So whatever path you take the same one all over the place, and that will help some. It's not going to solve it, but it will help some. Okay.
My son is in high school now and having a small party this weekend. We keep all of our liquor in a cabinet in the basement. I would prefer not to move it because our house is not very big and I just don't really have any place else to store it. So I was thinking about maybe getting those baby magnetic locks for the cabinet. I don't know. I don't want to get a real lock because I don't want to drill into the cabinet door. I know nothing is foolproof, but I'm just looking for something to be a deterrent. Any suggestions?
Yeah, just put anything on there that you'll be able to tell that they've gotten in. Put a tie strap on it. It really doesn't matter. just something that will signify to them that you know if they open the cabinet. That's all. Because you're right, nothing's foolproof. If they want to get in, they'll get in. So the thing is, you make it so they know that you will know if they do, that they can't get away with it, that they can't sneak it. And so you don't need a lock, tie strap it. The baby lock is good if there's a way to put an alarm on it. One of those baby alarms on the door alarms, right? You stick it to the back so it's got a magnet, and so when the magnet breaks, it sets off a little alarm. There's cheap ways you can do it. A battery powered thing, you only need it for a night. Or you take the cabinet liquor out and you put it in your bedroom. Spend 20 minutes. Don't be lazy. That's what I would do. Just remove the problem.
Easier that way, I would.
Just remove the problem. It's 20 minutes, half hour of work before, 20 minutes, half hour of work afterwards, and you get to reassemble it nicely how you want. Take the time. Your children are worth it. Okay.
Okay, we got work questions.
All right. We got like 10 minutes. So.
Okay, some coworkers have a way of getting you to overstate. How do you tighten up the boundaries, like very tightly?
Overstate what?
Personal information.
Well, that's because if they don't get you to overstate personal information, what they are is open enough where you accidentally feel comfortable to share too much. There's nothing you can do other than be more mindful of what you choose to say. That's it. There's no trick. That one's all on you. You just look at the person in the mirror. It's your responsibility, not theirs.
Okay. Recently, I'm feeling less motivated at work. I don't want to learn a new skill. Just hitting the office, finishing the job, and coming back. Does anyone else feel the same? How do you keep yourself motivated?
Well, everybody goes through periods of time like that, right? It's not uncommon. So cut yourself some slack. But B, if that is a long-term feeling, then what it shows is the place you work for, it has a lack of leadership. You don't know why you're there. Or the why you're there isn't motivational for you. I'm lucky. I have a job now where I get to go help people, learn to use their voice and learn to, talk to the community and help the community become a better place. That's a self-motivating thing, right? It's what I love to do. So every day I'm motivated because I know my why. I know why I'm there. I know what I'm doing. I'm making a difference in a way that I want to make a difference. And so the question is, for you, is why are you there? Are you there for a paycheck, or are you there to make a difference in the world? Are you there to make, are you fulfilling some need for yourself? And if you're not, maybe it's time to start working on your resume and start going to some place that gives you meaning. Maybe it's the time you're at a time in your life where you want meaning, not money. There's a lot of people going through that right now where they're tired of, running around looking for money when what they really want is meaning. People will take less money if they have meaning. They just will. Because money doesn't actually motivate us very well. It motivates a small percentage of us, 10%, 15%, maybe. What motivates the rest of us is lifestyle and meaning. Do I get what I want out of it? Can I live the type of life I want working this job? Or does this job give me meaning? Can I make the world a better place? That's what gives most people meaning. And so that's what now, it could just be that you're going through one of those things, right? It could just be you're in a rut. You just kind of feel blah, and it'll pass in a month, right? That's true too. But there could be something deeper. And you're not going to figure out which one of those it is without exploring it for yourself. All right, we got time for one more, Lovey.
Okay. Recently, I left my job for a new one because the contract on my original job was coming to a close and there wasn't an opportunity for me to get extended. I got an offer to join a new company after a relatively quick interview process. I'm only into my first week, but so far the job is not what I expected it to be. Now I'm worried that if I left after only a week, it would ruin my chances of finding a better one because future employers find out or speak to my original contract job and ask why I left. Should I just stick with my new job for a year?
Jobs don't tell you why they left. They're not really allowed. It creates illegal issues for them. So don't actually worry too much about that. They can really, all they tell you is that, yes, you worked here. And you have to use coded language if you're a bad employee to tell them that you're a bad employee. But they can't tell you why they left. They're not allowed. It creates a severe legal issue. Lawyers won't allow it. So it's got nothing to do with legally. I mean, they can legally say, but the lawyers, it becomes an issue because then you can sue for defamation and so type issues, right? Because you don't really know. They don't really know why you left. You could have told them I left for family issues when you just really left because their culture was corrosive and you just wanted to get the hell out of there. You don't want to have the argument. And so, and two, if you leave after a week, no one cares because no one's going to know. You're not going to put it on your freaking resume. And number three, right now, it's the job hopping thing isn't really an issue these days. It's just not. Now, if you have a 10-year track history of job hopping, that's another thing. But I want to say this. The best way to get a large raise is to change jobs. So don't be afraid of changing job. That's an old mindset. It's an old mindset where people got a job, stayed there for 20, 25 years, got the gold watch or whatever, and retired. It doesn't happen anymore. It's not how life works, right? That's a myth. I mean, it happens just enough at places like Tesla or Facebook or Google, those startup companies, where people will come in on day one and they stay their whole entire careers and retire. It happens just enough for people to think it's common, but it's not. It's not common for most of us. And so that's not really our goal. Our goal is to have the best lives we can and build the best career we can. And that often means changing jobs. And if you're in a wrong job, if you're in the bad job, it's actually worse than, right? It's a setback to your career because you're going to have spending time in something that's not advancing you. You're wasting time. And your career is about time. So don't be afraid. Go chase something else. If you need to chase something else, don't be afraid to do it. All right, is the next one short?
No.
Okay, then we'll go leave here. Well, thank you guys for joining us, me and Lubby tonight. You can always find us at latenightlove.us. You can send Lubby a dear love letter at love@latenightlove.us. You can find us on our social media and podcast networks. And we thank you for joining us with love for me and Lubby. Good night, and please remember to love everybody.
Good night.
No, where's my thing? Oh, there it is.